Hi everyone, so you can tell by the title on the staff paper that this video is a review video, so it is 100% optional. If you feel totally comfortable building seventh chords of all qualities off of a given pitch, then you can go ahead and skip this video and jump right to the Artusi problem set. If you want a little refresher, we are going to just walk through again the process of building seventh chords in root position off of a given pitch and what intervals it is you're dealing with. This is a little bit of a review session because one of my colleagues who is teaching Theory 2 in the spring mentioned that that is a skill that sometimes is lacking in students who come into Theory 2. They're oftentimes very capable of building chords via scale degrees, but not so much just from a given pitch without being in the context of a key. So we are just going to do a little refresher on what intervals make up each type of seventh chord and do some practice building seventh chords in treble and bass clef. So we'll go ahead and start rolling. First off, we are going to talk about the intervallic content of all of your seventh chord types. What you have in front of you is a list of all 5 seventh chord types that we'll be working with, all of them written from the same root. Now, looking at this, you can tell that there's a progressive kind of shrinking of the overall size of the chord. So the major seventh is the widest seventh chord, and then they're just getting progressively more kind of condensed as we go all the way down to the fully diminished seventh chord. So let's talk about the intervals that we are going to use to build each of these seventh chords. Now your major seventh chord has a major triad on the bottom. So that's what this M stands for. So that first M in these designators tells you what quality triad is on the bottom. And then the second M tells you the quality of the seventh from the root to the topmost pitch. Now, that is all the information you technically need to know, but sometimes it can be helpful to work just in thirds. If you kind of like working just like in that building block type of way. So I'm going to further break this down into just its third components. So that seventh chord below lists the quality of third from the root up. Now, most of us are probably super comfortable building a major triad at the very least. So you might build a major triad from your given note and then say, okay, now I need a major third on top of this, instead of going all the way back down to the root and building a major seventh. Both will give you the same answer. It's just what you're most comfortable with. Okay, now let's look at a major minor seventh. Again, major triad on the bottom. And this time on the outside, it has a minor seventh. And again, if I were to spell that in thirds, you would have a major third on the bottom, minor third in the middle, minor third on top. And this seventh chord, of course, is the very important dominant seventh. Of all the types of seventh chords that you need to be able to build fluently from any given pitch, the dominant seventh is the most important one. Okay, let's look at the minor seventh. Sometimes we just call it the minor seventh chord, and it's just implied that we understand that it's 2 minors in there, and we just leave out one of them. So this designation tells us that we have a minor triad on the bottom, and a minor seventh on the outside. And I will spell it for you in thirds below. And now we're getting into our diminished triad, or diminished seventh chords. So our first one is the half diminished seventh. And now we don't have the letter designations to tell us everything, but this half diminished means that we have a diminished triad on the bottom, and on the outside there is a minor seventh. Now spelled out in thirds, you'll come up with this. And then finally, the fully diminished seventh chord. Fully diminished gives us a little more information. It means that all of the important things are diminished. So we have a diminished triad, as well as a diminished seventh on the outside. This one is the easiest one to kind of conceptualize in thirds because it is just a chain of minor thirds from root all the way up to seventh. Now, like I said, you have probably more information that you need in this chart. We're all going to have our different ways of approaching the building process for these triads. For the major minor groups, so these first three, I think most of us will probably just build the triad in the quality that we need. And then some of you might think in thirds for that seventh rather than thinking the entire seventh. For the half and fully diminished, you might find yourself thinking more in terms of third qualities as you build them up. So with that, let's go ahead and just build some as a group and or on your own. So I'm going to change us into bass clef for a little bit. I'll leave that so you can see it. And let's go ahead and build a couple of seventh chords from different starting notes. Okay, go ahead and give these four a try and come back, check your answers with me, and we will troubleshoot any potential pitfalls. Okay, lots of accidentals, but this is what you should have for your spellings for these 4 seventh chords. Minor, minor, seventh off of B flat, minor triad, so you need a D flat in there, and then minor seventh on the outside, A flat, and or if you built your minor triad, all you had to do was build a minor third on top of that, so that gives you the A flat as the seventh. Half diminished seventh chord, you don't have to do a whole lot. You just have to stack your notes. So C sharp, E, G gives you your diminished triad, and then major third on top of that, and or minor seventh from the root gives you B on the top. A flat dominant, and like I said, being able to spell dominant quality chords quickly and efficiently from any given pitch is the best skill you could pull out of this seventh chord lesson. Just be really fluent with building dominant quality chords. So major, minor, seventh off of A flat, major triad right here, and then minor third on the top, which also gives you a minor seventh from the root. And last but not least, tons of accidentals, but a major, major seventh chord off of B. So you've got your major triad, and then your major seventh from the root. Okay, the last thing we're going to do is just some identification, but I'm going to put them in inversion. So I'm going to give you 5 or 6 seventh chords of varying qualities in different inversions. So you've got to be able to rearrange them and then figure out what quality they are. Okay, so your task with these then is to figure out the quality and also the inversion. You don't have to tell me the root, just the quality and the inversion. But you do need to find the root in order to work that out, right? So a quick kind of trick to this is you already know the root position chord, right? You can tell just by looking that this is the one that's in root position. It's obviously just a bunch of stacked thirds. For the rest of them, they are in some kind of inversion, so you need to find the root. The best way to do that is find the second, and then, so for this first chord then, here's the second. The second is the seventh of the chord, right? That's just been inverted because the chord is in an inversion. So you find the second, and then the note that is at the top end of that second, so the top half of the second, is the root of your chord. And then you can go ahead and figure out what the inversion is and what the quality is. So that's a quick hack to figuring out who the root of these inverted chords are. So go ahead and work out the quality and the inversion of these 6 seventh chords and then come back and check your work. I went ahead and filled in the note heads of the roots So if we do have a different inversion symbol, that would be your first step in figuring out why you have the wrong inversion numbers, making sure that you have the same root as I do. This is your rundown of the qualities and inversions for all of these. I do have two designations for the 4-2 chords, and that is because 4-2 is the fully written out figure for that inversion. But as I told you when we first learned 7th chord inversions, some people do just use a 2. I tend to do that, and I am in the minority. Most of my colleagues do not. So 4-2 is going to be the one that you're going to see the most often, but just in case you encounter a regular plain 2 in the figures, that is what that means. Okay, looking ahead towards your R2C assignment, I'm just asking you to build 7th chords from a given root. So they're all going to be in root position. I just really want you to develop fluency and eventually some level of speed in spelling those chords just in root position from a given note in either bass or treble clef without a key signature. So you are out of the context of a key. You can't use scale degrees. You've really got to think intervallically as you build these chords. Okay, guys, that was a quick kind of review video, so go ahead and hop on R2C when you feel ready. There's an in-class exercise for you to practice, and then the problem set itself, which is due by class on Wednesday. Thanks, guys.